Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Mayor of Merton. So to get the proceedings going, we shall turn our attention to the Mayor's chaplain, the Reverend David Ruddick, who will now offer prayers.
Yes, very good evening, everybody. I'd like to read two more verses from Psalm 8 in the Old Testament. The writer is speaking to God about human beings. He writes this: "You have made them a little lower than the angels and crowned them with glory and honor. You made them rulers over the works of your hands. You put everything under their feet." Well, last month, I said that human beings have a great dignity that is God-given. But here's the thing. As we look around the world, we don't see human beings ruling the works of God's hands perfectly. In many cases, our ruling of the world, meaning our managing of our resources and our responsibilities and our relationships, leaves a very great deal to be desired. Which is why it is very good news that God has given us our greatest desire, the very best of rulers. In the New Testament of the Bible, another writer picks up these verses from Psalm 8 and applies them to Jesus Christ. Christians believe that he was crowned with glory and honor when he died and was raised. So my church family at Emmanuel Morden and I, and Christians all over Merton, are celebrating that in this Easter season at the moment. Not just that Jesus is alive and ruling, but that he is the perfect human being. And so he is fit to be our champion. He's everything we could not be, doing what we could not do, living the perfect life, and so dying as the sinless substitute for us in our place, so that we might have hope for the future if we'll have him as our champion. So very happy Easter to you. I'll pray in the light of that for the meeting this evening. Let's pray. Father God, your Bible says that you crowned your Son, Jesus Christ, with glory and honor and made him the ruler that we could never be. And that means that the universe is in good hands as we meet this evening, for which we give you thanks. Tonight, at this meeting, we give thanks for the year that has gone by, a tough year and a sad year for many. We pray for them. And we pray for our current and future leaders in Merton Council, for all those involved in governing and arranging and leading and organising. All of those jobs are part of the stewardship of your world and your creation in our corner of it in Merton. And we pray for all those who are engaged in those ways, for strength and perseverance in their roles. And we pray for encouragement and progress this evening. In his name, amen.
Amen. Thank you and welcome to the virtual meeting of the council members. Your microphones will be muted when you are not speaking. If you wish to speak and your name is not on my list of speakers, please alert the clerk or the chief executive via the chat function. We are managing a large number of members in this Zoom meeting, so please be patient. If you experience any technical difficulties, please alert a member of Democratic Services via the chat function. Before we begin, I understand some members wish to speak following the death of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. Councillor Allison.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for allowing me to join you to lay flowers at Wimbledon Theatre to show Merton Council's condolences for the passing of Prince Philip. Over the past week or two, much has been said about the Duke of Edinburgh, about his loyalty and his service to his country and to the wider community. I have to say that one of the things that always made me warm to him was his mischievous sense of humour. He was well known to put people at ease in nerve-wracking situations, like meeting the royal family, by telling an off-colour joke or saying something gratuitous or offensive. As someone who makes bad jokes in almost any situation, I have to say I admire him for that. It was his stoical good humour and kindness towards others in the pursuit of public service that shone through when Prince Philip last visited Merton with the Queen in 2012 to mark her Diamond Jubilee. Visiting our schools, I'm told that even at 90 years of age, he put everyone at ease, and helped make the whole day a pleasure as well as a privilege. As I said last week, he was one of the last representatives of an era in which duty and service came before anything else. He served in the armed forces. In fact, he graduated top of his class at Dartmouth officer training. As a former Sea Scout, who hated it, left after only a few months, barely made it onto the water, I can only admire him for that. And then, of course, he saw active service and showed great courage. During the invasion of Sicily in July 1943, as second in command of Wallace, he saved his ship from a night bomber attack. He devised a plan to launch a raft with smoke floats, and that successfully distracted the bombers, allowing the ship to slip away unnoticed. There are not many left who risked everything to defeat the Nazis. And his loss reminds us of our grandparents and our friends and neighbours from that generation, almost all of whom are now gone. We owe them so much: our democracy, our freedom. The sacrifices they made were for us. So we remember them as we remember him, and as we think of our Queen and our country. On behalf of the Labour Group, we think of the Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip, now, and all who are mourning him. May he rest in peace. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 14 Prime Ministers, 18 general elections, 7 changes of government. Even in a stable country like Britain, it is remarkable how much political water has flowed under the bridge in the 69 years since the late Duke of Edinburgh became consort to Elizabeth II. Prince Philip has deservedly won warm tributes for the commitment in the way he has served the United Kingdom. His ability to put people at ease, aided by the occasional off-colour remark, was that of a man who instinctively knew how to break through class boundaries without compromising the dignity of his office. Throughout his 99-year-long life, Prince Philip was associated with 992 charities in one capacity or another, either as president, patron, or as an honorary member. His choice of vehicle to carry his body to St. George's Chapel summed him up: practical, fiercely unsentimental, robust, hands-on, ingenious, quietly eccentric, and defiantly irreverent. Madam Mayor, I would urge those who admired the Duke of Edinburgh, and there are millions of us, to honour his memory by fighting back against the warped culture of woke and the hysterical accusations that are employed to silence decent people with a love of country and a belief that there are more important things in this life than self. His Royal Highness's greatest contribution to his country, one universally applauded since his passing, his unstinting support of Her Majesty the Queen and the institution of monarchy. He will be missed. Thank you.
Councillor Gretton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you also for your service through your mayoralty, presiding over this chamber during the pandemic. Madam Mayor, it is certainly a time to reflect with sadness, but also with pride as we pay tribute to His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh on this day, Her Majesty the Queen's birthday. Madam Mayor, His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh continued to carry out his public engagements and service well into his 97th year, and that's a truly remarkable record. Only a few years after His Royal Highness's marriage to Her Majesty, Prince Philip founded the Duke of Edinburgh's Award Programme in 1956. At any one time, the D.of.E. programme in this country alone includes hundreds of thousands of young persons learning essential skills, gaining experience, practicing sports, and developing the confidence and resilience that will prove so valuable to them. And I know, Madam Mayor, there are so many local communities and projects in our own borough, including our new Pocket Park, Gap Road Gardens and Wimbledon Park Ward, which benefit from the volunteering, which is a key part of the D.of.E. Awards. More than a quarter of the young persons coming into the D.of.E. Awards today are from disadvantaged backgrounds, and the programme now runs in 150 nations across Europe, the Americas, Africa, and the Asia Pacific region. Madam Mayor, we will miss His Royal Highness very much, but we we can all be tremendously proud of his lifetime of service and the legacy and benefits of His Royal Highness's work with young persons, which will very much continue and live on. Thank you.
Would the Deputy Lieutenant now like to say a few words? Could the Deputy Lieutenant unmute, please?
We give thanks for the life of His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh. His sense of service to the nation and the strength of character should be an inspiration to us all. I had the good fortune to meet His Royal Highness on a number of occasions, particularly when I was Chief Executive at the Royal Albert Hall, where he routinely attended events on his own or accompanying the Queen, including the Mountbatten Festival of Music, performed by the bands of Her Majesty's Royal Marines, and the annual Festival of Remembrance. The strong affinity he shared with his armed forces comrades and his dedication to the honour of their service and sacrifice was clear to see. Among many other attributes, His Royal Highness's passion for and commitment to the development of young people continued all his life, which had an exceptional impact on thousands of people's lives all over the world, for which he will be remembered. But our thoughts and prayers today are with Her Majesty the Queen and all her family on her 95th birthday. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are there any apologies for absence? Councillor Christie?
No apologies, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Barlow?
No apologies, Madam Mayor.
Councillor McGrath?
No, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Southgate?
No apologies, Madam Mayor.
Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? I call for nominations for the position of the Mayor of Merton with effect from the 19th of May 2021.
Madam Mayor,
Yep.
I propose as the next Mayor of Merton, Councillor Mike Brunt. Mike needs no introductions to most at Merton. He's been a Figs Marsh councillor for 2 stints since 1990. He has a very hard act to follow, but he is very distinguished. A councillor of high standing with colleagues across 20 years of public service, a former leader of London Borough of Merton, more recently Cabinet Member for the Environment, and for the past few months a record breaker, Merton's first ever interim maternity leave Cabinet Member, a role he relinquished earlier this week and for which he deserves our inordinate thanks. Mike has served the council and our community tremendously, and I can think of nobody better to serve as mayor for the next civic year. So with the agreement of council, Mike will take up his position on May 19th when a formal socially distanced ceremony will take place, and I very much look forward to his installation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is that nomination seconded?
Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Yes, I have the great pleasure in seconding Councillor Brunt's nomination as the next mayor. For members who were elected in 2018 or later, Councillor Brunt will of course be our first male mayor. So Mr. Mayor-elect, congratulations. Your appointment as mayor for the forthcoming municipal term is a deserved acknowledgement of your many years of service to Merton Council and the borough. Service that includes being leader of the council from 1997 to 1999. I am sure all members would like to join me in wishing you the very best wishes for your mayoralty. Thank you.
Councillor Pritchard, did you wish to say something?
Madam Mayor, I will take the opportunity to speak briefly. First, to thank you for your service at this very, well, indeed, the most difficult of times, and thank you for the opportunity to again second the nomination of Councillor Brunt. The first time I met Councillor Brunt was a few years back at his selection contest to be my local councillor. It was a contest he once hands down as his character and experience shone through. From that point, he's gone on to become my councillor, then my colleague, then my friend. As time has passed, I've grown to like him, respect him, and value his advice and judgment. In many ways, he embodies many of Nolan's principles of public life: selflessness, integrity, objectivity, accountability, openness, and honesty. This is something that's lacking in far too many politicians today. Madam Mayor, Councillor Brunt is already a community leader, and I'm delighted he will be our next mayor. Thank you.
Is this agreed? I'm pleased to announce that Councillor Brunt has been duly elected Mayor of the London Borough of Merton for 2021 to 22. Councillor Brunt, I congratulate you on your election and wish you all the best for your upcoming mayoral year. Councillor Brunt, please nominate your Deputy Mayor for the upcoming year.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to nominate Councillor Edith Macaulay as my deputy for the coming year.
Thank you. Please now announce your chaplains and consort, Councillor Blunt.
My consort for the coming year will be my mum, Joan Brunt, a long-time resident of Merton, and there'll be plenty of time to talk about how long she's and all that she's done in the borough. And my mayor's chaplains will be a joint chaplaincy between the Reverend Alison Judge and the Reverend Belamo Alagoa, who are both priests in the Merton Priory team.
Councillor Macaulay, I now invite you to announce your consort.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My consort will be my grandson, who is 18 years old, Cavell Patrick Okesola. Thank you.
Councillor Brunt, would you like to say a few words?
I would. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think with that announcement of the Edith's grandson as her consort, we have a combined age in our consorts of 110. So I think that shows you the age range that we represent and the inclusivity of Merton as a borough. But I'd like to thank all councillors for putting their trust in me and for the kind words that have been said tonight and before tonight in my election as Mayor of Merton for 2021-22. I'd also like to thank friends and family from not only the UK, but also around the world. And I know that there are people watching this live stream tonight from here, but also from South Africa, from Argentina, from India, and from America. So I do hope that they've got a good sound quality and they can hear what's going on. It's a great honour to be elected to be the mayor of the borough that I was born in and I grew up in, although it wasn't called Merton when I was first born. I've so much to thank Merton for, and I hope that over the coming year I can demonstrate that gratitude and also give something back to Merton further. Last year has been one of challenges for us all. And I know that you, Madam Mayor, have particularly striven to make an impact and to get around to see as many people as possible during these difficult times. I hope that as we emerge from this lockdown and more of our community get vaccinated, we'll be able to meet more and more and be able to celebrate the hard work of so many in our community. In particular, I'd like to celebrate the work of carers in Merton, and I think that will be the theme for my year, caring. There are so many people who are carers, whether they're even school children who are also carers within the family. And I think that we need to celebrate so much they've given over the last year. That's informed my choice of charities for the year, because I have chosen Marie Curie as one of my charities, and the other one is Merton Care Association, Christian Care Association. Both have given amazing support to families and individuals through this time and before. Marie Curie provides a range of support, which includes end-of-life support for those who wish to spend their final days at home. And as a family, we benefited from that in my dad's dying days, where they came to support us. Christian Care Association works mainly with people in Merton who have no recourse to public funds. So they are almost destitute, some, but they provide emotional support, which is important, but also furniture, household items, food parcels when they're needed, and they're helping people to get established and move on in life. There will be time to meet and share more about those charities as time goes on. I hope that we have a successful year raising funds for them, but I hope by raising awareness, we'll also encourage people to volunteer for them. There'll also be a better opportunity, Madam Mayor, to thank you for everything you've done in this last 8 months since you became Mayor. It was a shortened year, I know, and that's something that's is sad for you, but you have achieved so much. Your visits to people on their doorsteps to give thank yous and recognise their contribution to the community, your visits to as many schools, despite the difficulties of the pandemic. So there'll be a better opportunity on the 19th and beyond, 19th of May and beyond, to say thank you to you. And I have got a hard act to follow, as it was said earlier. So thank you very much. And thank you to the council and to all members who've supported me.
The signing of the Declaration of Office, robing and presentation of citation, flowers, consort badges and chaplain's crosses will take place on another date outside of this meeting. Members, as Councillors Brunt will not take office till the 19th of May, I will chair the remainder of this meeting and the extraordinary meeting following. I would like to ask the Chief Executive to introduce the next item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I now call on the Leader of the Council to move the vote of thanks. Councillor Allison.
Thank you. And yeah, this is slightly awkward because she's still in place. So I still hope that we can resolve unanimously that the Council places on record its sincere thanks and appreciation to Councillor Sally Kenny for the dedicated manner in which she has served as Mayor of the London Borough of Merton for the period 2020 to 2021. Sally Kenny has served as a councillor for Lower Morden for the past 7 years. Previously a Merton school teacher, she quickly established herself as a brilliant ward councillor, committed to her ward, who would often pick up casework while walking her dog. It was no surprise that Sally was such an effective councillor, and most recently she became chair of the Children and Young People's Panel, a position of considerable influence. Sally became mayor in the unusual circumstances of COVID-19 in September 2020. She has had a uniquely challenging mayoral term during the pandemic, but has done a fantastic job of adapting the mayoral role to support our communities. Her term has also been a huge challenge. Elected in September, she has held the shortest mayoral year in Merton's history, yet has still gone on to raise tens of thousands for her chosen charities and recognised hundreds of residents for their work during the pandemic. Her mayoral charities are Morden Little League and Merton and Morden Guild of Social Service, both charities close to her heart locally. Her current total amount raised for charity, and it's current, as she still has a few events left to run, is more than £21,000. She was also among the first to recognise that the mayor's role needed to move online during the pandemic, and she's attended more than 90 community informal events, many virtually, during her term on behalf of the council. Sally's charity events have included sponsored litter picks in 3 main town centres, Morden, Wimbledon and Mitcham, the Movember fundraising campaign, various mayor's sweepstakes, online auctions, a Christmas song produced by students from the Cricket Green School, and a virtual balloon race. Most of all, Sally has championed her COVID-19 Community Awards. Set up by the Mayor last year, the COVID-19 Community Awards were a fantastic way of using the mayoral role to recognise and encourage community spirit. They have been a huge success. Designed to recognise those who have supported their neighbours, helped their community, or shown a community-minded approach during the pandemic. She has received hundreds of nominations from the public. The award is a formal certificate of recognition from the council, a little thing that goes a long way in building community spirit, as we've seen. More than 400 local residents have received community award certificates, many in socially distanced visits from the Mayor herself. The initiative was so popular, it was later widened to include organisations such as schools, doctors' surgeries, and community groups. In total, more than 600 COVID-19 award certificates have been awarded by Sally in the short space of her term. As Mayor, Sally has been ably supported in her work by Deputy Mayor, Councillor John Dehaney, and their consorts, as well as her team, Sandra Folkes and attendant Carl Brown. Sally has had only 8 months as Mayor, but she has achieved more than most mayors do in 12. We thank her and her team for their service and for doing their bit to support our community during this difficult period. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Allison. May I now call on Councillor McLean, the Leader of the Opposition, to second the vote of thanks. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Obviously, I clearly wholly endorse everything that Councillor Allison has just said, and I'm very pleased to second the vote of thanks for Councillor Kenny. I have the utmost respect for Councillor Kenny, indeed, even more so in seeing the way that she has dealt with her term as Mayor during this dreadful pandemic. And indeed, it was 2 years ago that I attended the Fish Easter party during Councillor Curtin's term as Mayor, and I'd hoped to have been able to attend again during Councillor Kenny's mayoralty. Sadly, that was not to be. And I was looking forward to once again wearing the colourful pinny that Councillor Kenny gave me to wear while I was pouring the tea last time. Madam Mayor, you have dealt with the difficulties of the pandemic wonderfully well, and we congratulate you on your very successful mayoralty. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McLean. May I now invite Councillor Fairclough to say a few words. Councillor Fairclough.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I would just like to say a short few words giving thanks from the Liberal Democrat group to Councillor Kenny for her time as Mayor, and also to Councillor Dehaney and their consorts and the team for all the work they've done this year. As it's already been remarked, it's been a difficult year to be Mayor, but Councillor Kenny has been cheery and driven and shown a determination to make the most of her time for her charities. The Merton Morden Guild and Morden Little League. I particularly want to touch on all the little leagues in the borough. Organised sport is such a vital resource for the children, helping towards good health and development. And I want to thank them for all the work that they do. I particularly enjoyed seeing all the photos on the Mayor's social media of her delivering her certificates of recognition to people and groups who've given their time during the COVID crisis. And I'm particularly grateful for the efforts that she went to make sure that those people I'd nominated could be included as well. So thank you very much for that, Sally. Recognition of public service is so important, especially at this time. Thank you again, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Fairclough. May I now invite Councillor Southgate to say a few words on behalf of his group. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jed. And let's face it, Madam Mayor, you were dealt a rotten hand for your year as Mayor of Merton, weren't you? Elected at a much delayed annual council meeting in September last year, it seemed no time at all before the excesses of Eat Out to Help Out were coming back to push up the infection rate, and we were back into lockdown by November. Fortunately, we were able to go ahead with planned events for Remembrance Sunday and Armistice Day on a socially distanced basis. And these are always solemn events in which the Mayor plays a key role as our first citizen, and which you performed with dignity and composure. But your planned carol service on the 16th of November had to be cancelled at very short notice. That was a disappointment. And there were no Christmas dinner or other seasonal festivities for us to enjoy this year with you. Never mind. Andy Butcher, Chair of Merton and Morden Guild and supporter of Morden Little League, came to the rescue with your virtual bingo session in January. That was great fun, even if his customary caller's patter had to be toned down a bit in the interest of political correctness. Bingo seemed to bring out the gambling spirit in our members, didn't it? So in February, we had the Mayor's horse racing sweepstake every Saturday. That provokes a lively commentary on WhatsApp on the favoured runners and riders. And I have to admit, the Southgate household proved surprisingly successful in the sweepstake, first time in our lives, actually. So much so that we were then emboldened to enter for the balloon race. But as that was entirely virtual, we never quite worked out how the winners were determined. Doesn't matter at all, it was fun. Your two charities, Merton Morden Guild and Morden Little League, both benefited. And so now your mayoral year comes to a close after just 8 short months, thanks to the need to bring the ACM forward to avoid a possible ban on our meeting virtually after the 6th of May. It's been too short, so let's give our thanks to you for your time as our mayor, the dignity and authority with which you carried out that role. And here's hoping we can find an opportunity in the future for you to come back and be our mayor again, only next time without the restrictions imposed by the pandemic getting in the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Southgate. 2 other councillors have asked to express their thanks and respect for the mayor. So can I now call upon Councillor Janice Howard to say a few words? Councillor Howard.
Councillor Howard, you need to unmute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge what an enormous challenge the past mayoral year has been for you. The pandemic has severely curtailed many of the usual community events and London-wide mayoral events due to lockdown during your shortened year. However, you've been an inspiration to us all. Your innovative certificate programme, recognising those who have gone above and beyond in the pandemic, was inspired. Not only that, to extend this to schools and GP surgeries certainly made its mark on every recipient, making them feel valued for the essential work they do. With face-to-face events impossible, this did not deter Madam Mayor for finding so many ingenious ways of raising funds for her chosen charities. A virtual balloon race at Easter, online charity bingo, and online auctions have all helped to raise a great deal of money, and it's down to your tremendous enthusiasm and energy that so much was achieved. There are still a few virtual events to happen, and of course, I shall be supporting them and hoping that you raise even more money for the Morden Little League and the Merton and Morden Guild. I'm sure your mayoral year will be so well remembered for all you've done for the community of Merton. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howard. Now, as the final speaker, may I invite Councillor Macaulay to say a few words. Councillor Macaulay.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Deputy Lieutenant Chris Cotton, Madam Mayor, councillors, officers, and distinguished guests. It gives me great pleasure tonight to give a vote of thanks to the retiring Mayor of Merton, Councillor Sally Kenny, for all her excellent work which she has done, especially during this very difficult period of COVID-19, for her 2 charities, Merton and Morden Guild and Morden Little League. The job of first citizen of the borough is a very personal one, in that the responsibilities are not abstract or theological, but rather direct, specific, and intimate. Unfortunately, during the period of her mayoralty, it has been very difficult for Councillor Kenny to perform any outdoor activities due to COVID restrictions. However, during this short period of time, she has done quite a lot of activities with her team, virtual bingo, sponsored litter, mayor sweepstake, sponsored swim, charity calendar, virtual raffle, auction, Christmas song produced by the students of Cricket Green School and supported by the wonderful Councillor Linda Kirby, and also a virtual balloon race. In the last 2 weeks, Councillor Kenny has presented well over 400 certificates to Merton residents who have demonstrated a caring and nurturing approach to their neighbors throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. She has also presented well over 600 certificates to schools, doctors' surgeries, and a variety of groups who are helping others throughout the year. Councillor Kenny also attended the London Mayors Association annual service in Westminster Abbey with her consort, and everyone was socially distanced, which was well attended by other London Borough mayors. Due to the death of the Duke of Edinburgh, Councillor Kenny paid a tribute to Her Majesty the Queen and opened a book of condolences for the Borough of Merton. She has also had the opportunity to participate in last week's event, an evening song commemoration service for the Duke of Edinburgh, hosted by the Dean of Southwark at Southwark Cathedral. Councillor Kenny has been a very hardworking and outstanding mayor. Together with her consort, her daughter Amanda, also the Deputy Mayor, Councillor John Dehaney, and his consort have been a great support to her. And also the Mayor's chaplain, the Reverend David Roddick, Vicar of Emmanuel, who is part of the Modern Church of England team, and also Carl and Sandra. On behalf of the chair of the London Mayors Association, Steve Summers, and also members of the executive, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to Councillor Sally Kenny for her efforts and commitments and the way in which she has performed her duties as first citizen of the borough. Welcome to the Chain Gangs. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Before I respond, is the vote of thanks agreed? Thank you. My term as mayor has certainly been different. None of us could have predicted what impact the pandemic was going to have, and while it's fair enough to say that it has affected my whole term as mayor in very many ways, I have been determined to ensure that I do my best for Merton and for my charities. I am so grateful to my fellow councillors for nominating me and for their support during this year. I wish that I could have met more of Merton's residents in person. I wish that I could have met more of Merton's charities and organisations who do outstanding work to support our community. I would have loved to have done this. I wish I could have raised more funding for my charities who have worked throughout COVID to support people and be a lifeline to them. Always a point of contact and a break from their isolation. But despite this, I am so proud of what we all achieved during this difficult time. I loved meeting those of you whom I did, setting up the scheme to deliver certificates in recognition of what groups and individuals have done for our community during COVID is something of which I'm so proud. Merton has so very many thoughtful and caring people living and working in our borough. The people of Merton supported each other throughout this time, and I saw our local community helping others. Each certificate was given as a result of nominees from Merton residents, and it was rewarding to acknowledge people who went ahead and provided for us all. As I presented certificates, socially distanced of course, I was taken aback at the surprise and delight with which they were received. Certificates were then issued to schools, doctors and dentist surgeries, care homes, and just starting places of worship, which remained open in different ways throughout COVID. There are still very many people who deserve certificates and recognition that I have not reached, and I'm sorry that we didn't have time to get to you all. Circumstances have reduced my ability to visit more people, and now I am running out of time. But if anyone does have someone they wish to nominate, please do let me know. There are a number of individuals and groups I wish to thank. My charities, Merton and Morden Guild, Anne and Hamish, Morden Little League, Andy Butcher, all of whom were tenacious in their support of me in Zoom fundraising events. You all must be well aware of the Zoom bingo, it's been said many times tonight, sweepstake, as well as the online auctions and raffles. My committee I want to thank, who comprised of my charities and the Deputy Mayor, Councillors Akagina, Councillor Howard, Councillor Kirby and Councillor Macaulay, who supported and encouraged me, mainly at a distance via Zoom. My consort, my daughter Amanda, who was delighted to attend 2 events when conditions allowed. My thanks also to my Deputy Mayor, John Dehaney, whom was a positive support to me, encouraging me in everything I did, and to his consort, his wife Delaney. I also wish to thank my chaplain, David Ruddock. Some people have been incredibly generous with donations, whether financially or with prizes. Very many councillors and the wider community have generously supported the virtual events. To you all, I am extremely grateful. Without your support, my position would have been difficult and frustrating. My sincere thanks to Sandra and Carl. Their attention to protocol is exemplary. They both ensured that I knew where I was going, what to be ready for, and the necessary detail I would require. Carl had to be tolerant of my backseat driving, of me telling him the quickest route to take, especially in my local area. We certainly weaved our way around Merton, delivering certificates in person. Almost every certificate's been delivered in person. Also to Steve, who stepped up to support me whenever needed. Sandra was forever ready to my suggestion, any suggestion I made, and was prepared to act at quite short notice, which I found invaluable. She always had a ready smile to any idea I had, and enabled me to feel that I could make suggestions and received a balanced, critical response. Sandra is a positive person and is a delight to work with in all areas. Carl, as many of you know, likes a joke, and it amused him to find my keys or phone, which often dropped in the car without me realising until I needed them. There, the needed item would appear in Carl's safe hand. Sandra and Carl are a magnificent team. Together, the 3 of us laughed our way through the ongoing changes in legislation to keep ourselves in a constructive frame of mind. I also wish to thank Jed, the 2 Louises and Amy for their support with council meetings, which I found invaluable. I sincerely thank every one of you who has helped me and supported me during this difficult year. My very, very best wishes to Councillor Brunt, who will take over this mantle. I shall support you all I can. Thank you. That concludes the ceremonial part of the meeting, and the council will now proceed with its formal business. We are now on item 5 of the approval of the minutes. Are the minutes of the meeting held the 3rd of March agreed as a correct record?
Agreed.
Thank you, that is agreed. Item 6, appointment of chairs and vice chairs of Overview and Scrutiny Commission and its panels. Councillor Christie, will you present the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, simply to say that at the Constitution Review Working Group, we've had a number of discussions about how best to allocate the chairs and vice chairs of the scrutiny committees. The majority of us felt that for the time being, it was best to keep the existing practice. And so we're simply proposing to slightly amend the Constitution to reflect the current practice. So that's what the report does. So happy to move the report. Thank you.
Do you have a seconder?
I'd like to second Madam Mayor and reserve my right to speak.
I have the following listed to speak. Councillor Williams.
Madam Mayor, may I reserve my right to speak? I may not need to, depending on what's said.
I
If
don't
you don't like that idea, I will say something now.
Yes, please, Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Certainly, I, on behalf of my group, support this report and the reference in it to the fact that we accept that there are perhaps better ways of undertaking scrutiny in Merton, particularly when it comes to allocating chairs and indeed who takes the chair or vice chair of each committee. The Liberal Democrats who may be speaking have an issue about proportionality. And I just want to point out to them that I did write to Councillor Kohler well before this came up to a task group meeting. He never replied. But if you're looking at the available places, which there are currently 4 for the combined opposition of 26 seats, the Conservative group with 17 of the 26 are entitled to 2.62 of those 4 seats. The Liberal Democrats to 0.92 of those seats, and the Merton Park Independents to 0.46 of those 4 seats. So it is very clear that the Conservative group have the right number of vice chairmanships of the various scrutiny panels. Open to suggestions how we might do this on another occasion, but if it is best practice that the panels and the commission are chaired or vice chaired by someone from a different party, then this is the way it is for the moment. I'm sure it can be improved. We have the right proportion of the 26 available seats. It's very clear that the Lib Dems should be knocking.
You have a minute remaining.
Knocking at somebody else's door, Madam Mayor, and not at ours.
Councillor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our current constitution is clear. As stated in paragraph 2.1 of the Monitoring Officer's report, the appointment of chairs and vice chairs of the 4 scrutiny groups will comply with the rules of proportionality. There are consequently 8 scrutiny positions, and applying the proportionality rules gives Labour 4.6. I'm amazed, Councillor Williams, you can't even do the maths. The Tories is 2.26, the Lib Dems 0.8, and the Merton Park Independents 0.4. Furthermore, as no group is allowed more than 4 places, there can be no doubt that under the Constitution, we should tonight be appointing 4 Labour scrutiny positions, 1 Merton Park Independent, 2 Tories and 1 Lib Dem, rather than giving the Tories 3 positions and the Lib Dems none. And yes, Councillor Williams, I did respond to you. I responded to all 60 councillors in response to your email. When we pointed this out at a council meeting last year, Councillor Welton quite incredibly stated there was no such provision in the Constitution. As strategies go, it's bold, Councillor Welton, I grant you, but not wholly convincing. The matter was then remitted to a working group from which the report before us emanates. Sadly, as we can see, the cosy Labour-Tory duopoly have confirmed they would rather give the Lib Dem position to the Tories than apply the Constitution. Why, for goodness sake, does the Labour group prefer a Tory to a Lib Dem in that position? Why do both parties not respect the plurality of voters across the borough and follow proportionality? Even more concerningly, why, Councillor Southgate, as our supposed head of scrutiny, do you, as stated in paragraph 3.4 of the report, consider it inappropriate to express a view on this obvious abuse of power and the scrutiny process? Now, some of you have asked me privately why I'm making such a fuss about a humble vice chair role on scrutiny. Well, firstly, if it's such a small issue, why is full council going to all the trouble of amending the Constitution rather than applying it?
You have a minute remaining.
And secondly, why not give the Lib Dem group one of those vice chair positions and see how we could begin to transform scrutiny in Merton? holding cabinet members to account like a parliamentary select committee, playing a critical political but not party political role in improving Merton's governance. But no, the cosy duopoly will have none of that. Labour are too fearful of proper scrutiny and the Tories too timid to conduct it. So they combine together to remove the Lib Dem position and give it to the Tories. Shame on you both, but, and I say this with no pleasure given my personal regard for you, shame on you, Councillor Southgate, who as head of scrutiny really should be standing up for the Constitution rather than joining in trampling upon it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Southgate.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, normally, as you know, the focus of the annual council meeting is on the mayor and the ceremonial aspects of the mayor making, which we all enjoy. But as the meeting virtually means that we're denied the ceremonial aspect, and as we do have this item on the agenda, I would like to take the opportunity to comment. This is about the application of political proportionality in the appointment of chairs and vice chairs to scrutiny, which is a requirement of the ONS procedure rules in the Constitution. In practice, it is very difficult to apply proportionality to small numbers. With just 8 posts, there are bound to be substantial discrepancies. And taken in conjunction with the requirement that chair and vice chair must not be from the same party, that means trying to allocate 4 posts across 3 opposition groups. Well, we seem to have been discussing this for much of the past 3 years. And I'm grateful to Louise Round, our legal advisor, for steering the discussion much further than we've got before. Nevertheless, we have not succeeded in reaching agreement, and the solution on which we will be voting tonight is simply to drop the proportionality requirement. And because I have a personal interest as chair of the commission, I don't feel it's appropriate for me to vote on this. I am glad members of the working group have agreed to revisit this issue ahead of the next council, in search of a more satisfactory conclusion. When they do, I hope they will take into account the statutory guidance on scrutiny, which was published in 2019 by the MHCLG, Minister then one Rishi Sunak. Statutory guidance means that, and I quote, we must have regard to its recommendations, not that the guidance has to be followed in every detail, but that it should be followed unless there is good reason not to do so in a particular case. If I can quote from that, chairs should pay special attention.
You have 1 minute remaining.
To the need to guard the committee's independence. Importantly, however, they should take care to avoid the committee being and be viewed as a de facto opposition to the executive. And on the selection of chairs, the guidance states, the method of selecting a chair is for each authority to decide for itself. However, every authority should consider taking a vote by secret ballot. Now, the Working Party discussed how this might be done by means of a secret ballot to choose between 2 group nominations. However, this does presume that the proportionality issue in the allocation of chairs has been sorted out first. So that's one for revisiting ahead of the local elections next year and prior to the formation of a new council. Thank you.
The seconder, Councillor Welton, do you wish to use your right to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I would like to take this opportunity of thanking you for the service you have given to Merton over the last year and the high level of engagement you have made with communities across the borough. Despite the many challenges, you've been an exemplar in terms of your work in the 8 months of your mayoralty in quite unprecedented times due to COVID. I hope you leave with many happy memories of your time as first citizen, and best of luck to Councillor Brunt. Turning now to these recommendations. As colleagues will have heard, this is it, unfortunately, we've been able to come to an agreement with in the Working Party, despite many meetings where this has been discussed. What we are proposing tonight is that the status quo is retained for the next year, with the current arrangements remaining in place. At present, chairs and vice chairs of panels and committees are from different parties. We are proposing that this continues to remain the case, and as you will see, the majority group takes 50% of the positions. A neighbouring council to us, Lib Dem Sutton, which I'm sure Councillor Bakari is well acquainted with, has a position whereby all the chairs and vice chairs of committees are from the Liberal Democrat group. I'm sure colleagues here will agree that we have a far fairer system here in Merton by sharing out chairs and vice chairs, even if the Merton Lib Dems disagree. In order that there is independent oversight of overview and scrutiny, we propose that it continues to be chaired by Councillor Southgate, who has chaired it for the past 15 years, both under Conservative and Labour administrations. I think many of us would agree that Councillor Southgate has been a fair arbiter and ensured that scrutiny is rigorous in its work. The changes we are proposing allows flexibility rather than specific prescription as been requested. I ask Council to support these recommendations. Thank you.
If there are no further speakers, Councillor Christie, do you wish to use your right to reply?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I now call for a vote on the report. Members, please select on your screens either for, against, or not voting, then click submit. Remember to press submit once you have voted. Councillor Stamford, could I have your vote, please?
For the motion, please.
Thank you. Have all members voted, please? Thank you. For 50, 5-0, against 6, not voting 2. The motion is carried. Sorry. Item 7, the constitution of committees and other bodies report. Councillor Allison, will you present this report?
Madam Mayor, I'm happy to propose it formally.
Do you have a seconder?
I second that, Madam Mayor.
I have the following listed to speak. Councillor Barlow.
We agree, Madam Mayor, and nothing further to add.
If there are no further speakers, Councillor Allison, do you wish to use your right to reply? Is the report agreed then?
Agreed.
Not agreed, Madam Mayor. Agreed. Not. Can we have a vote on this, please, Madam Mayor?
Thank you. I heard agreed and I heard someone say not agreed and call for a vote. Thank you. The vote will be appearing on your screen shortly. Will you please vote for, against, or not voting, and then press submit. Please remember to press submit. Has everybody voted?
It's me, Madam Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Stamford.
Yeah. 4.
Thank you. For 51, against 6, not voting 2. The motion is carried. Item 8, we will now deal with the calendar of meetings report. Councillor Byers, will you please present this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally move the report and I'll use my right of reply if there are any comments. I think you're muted, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Allison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second.
Thank you. I have the following listed to speak. Councillor McLean.
I have nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
If there are no further speakers, Councillor Byers, do you wish to use your right of reply?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is the report agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
I hear no dissent. This is agreed. Item 9. We will now move to our final item, the report of Chief Officer Recruitment. Councillor Stringer, will you present this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I formally present this report and I'd be happy to talk about it if any questions, but given the pressing time, I'll reserve that right to speak if that's okay.
Do you have a seconder, Councillor Allison?
Yes, I'll second. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I have the following listed to speak. Councillor McLean.
Nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Stringer, do you or Councillor Allison wish to say anything?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just take 1 minute if that's okay, just to say explain the reason for this is some happy reasons and some less happy reasons. So the good news is that Jane McSherry, our current Assistant Director for Education and Early Help, appointed as our Director of Children's Schools and Families, which I'm delighted about. That was following a process of open competition. So as a consequence, we need to appoint a new director. The eagle-eyed will have spotted the amendment that came through. That's because we also need to recruit for a new Assistant Director of Social Care and Youth Exclusion. So I'm sorry to say that one of our other Assistant Directors, Elle Mayhew, is leaving us. So as you'd expect, we will go through due process and we're doing thorough research about these roles, but I'd like to congratulate Jane McSherry on her appointment.
Is that report agreed? As I hear no dissent, it is agreed. Thank you. This concludes the annual council meeting. The extraordinary meeting will follow on now. Thank you. You get your papers for that. Welcome to this extraordinary meeting of the council. We've dealt with apologies for absences in the previous meeting, so we can move on to the declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? We now move to the single item of business for this extraordinary meeting, a motion submitted on the local response to violence against women and girls. I will ask the report to be proposed and seconded in the normal way. We will then take any amendments in the order in which they have been received. We will then move to the debate and the usual rules of debate will apply. And we will call upon each member who has asked to speak on this item in turn. When there are no further speakers, we will move to the votes. Councillor Akagina, please present the report. Councillor Akingina, can you present the report, please? Make sure you unmute.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just trying to unmute myself. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Madam Mayor, this meeting is a very sad and poignant occasion. The tragic death of Sarah Everard, who disappeared in a neighbouring borough, has left our community in shock. It has also highlighted the deep feeling of what women and girls have always thought about their safety. On behalf of the Labour Group, I want to use this occasion to say how sorry we are to the family and friends of Sarah Everard for their loss. They have been through a tragedy. Nobody who has lost a daughter will ever get over it. Sarah Everard's life should therefore be the focus of our thoughts tonight. Her death has made us all very angry, but we still have to avoid drawing conclusions or talking about the case itself. There is a court case to come, and we shall not put that at risk or make political gains out of her family's pain. So I shall say just a few words about what we have been doing in Merton to protect women and girls. Our report describes much of the work we are doing, and I do not have time to repeat it all at this present moment. Merton remains one of the safest boroughs in London, and I aim to keep it that way. The council and its partners are dedicated to supporting all victims of violence. We work closely with our neighbours, policing team, Inspector, and we are keen to encourage reporting gender-based crimes and incidents. Police colleagues have been implementing an engagement plan with an increased focus on bringing perpetrators of domestic abuse and violence against women and girls to justice. We aim for early intervention to prevent escalation and further incidents. Women should feel empowered to speak whenever or wherever they feel uncomfortable. In Merton, we have developed an Ask for Angela scheme, which provides immediate assistance in pubs. 90% of our leased premises and their door staff were signed up to this scheme. In terms of the next step, our aims are clear. Violence against women and girls and women's safety are linked, but women's safety should be a project on its own. Many women won't report incidents to police, so we want to ensure that women's voices are heard. We will consult with women in the borough to hear their voices and experiences and act on their concerns. And once we have listened, we will produce an action plan to keep women safe. We will communicate with women to reduce their fear. Tackling violence against women and girls is a priority to us locally. I've met with colleagues across London, and the mayor, and it's priority for them too. The case of Sarah Everard must not be forgotten. We owe it to women and girls in Merton to work with our partners and with men to keep our community safe. Thank you.
Councillor Skeet, are you seconding this?
Yes, I am, Madam Mayor. As a Cabinet Member for Women and Equalities, I am happy to second this report. But before I do, I want to add my condolences to Sarah Everard's family and friends. London is an amazing city, and that is why her death is so shocking. Even in London, even in the 21st century, our young women are not safe. My thoughts are with Sarah's family. I have to be careful what I say. We are having this meeting because Sarah died, but we cannot speculate on the causes because a case is going to trial. However, women and girls are still not safe even in London, and we are not safe because of the acceptable behaviors and unacceptable attitudes of some men. Councillor Akajina has outlined some of the work we are carrying out to make women safer. In addition to what she has described, I want to reassure victims that they can still access advice, support, and help during COVID and the lockdown. I want to reassure women that since 2008, the Council has invested around £2 million converting streetlights into new LED lanterns. As a result, 80% of the borough is now, the borough is now a safe, it is a very good standard, sorry. However, it is important to note that lighting alone cannot stop crime taking place. And women and girls don't just want to hear about safety or about how they will be treated as victims. The Council has a duty to promote respectful treatment of women. This is our aim. All our schools now teach respectful relationships in the curriculum. This includes teaching girls and boys about positive and healthy friendships. How we treat others is also is all contexts, including online and on social media. It covers respect, kindness, generosity, boundaries, privacy, consent, and the management of conflict. Women in Merton deserve to live in safety. We deserve to enjoy our lovely parks and green spaces without worry about men. We deserve respect. It should not take a tragic death to say, but here in Martin, women should be respected. This is my aim, and I second this report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
We have an amendment. Councillor Bailey, please move the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we called this meeting about violence against women and girls to have an open discussion about the behaviour of men needs to change. And before anybody objects, I did not say all men. So you can imagine my disappointment when the term male violence was not mentioned in this report once. To be honest, I nearly wasn't here. I nearly gave my apologies for this meeting because this is a topic which is really painfully close to home, not just for me, but for every single woman that I know. So if I sound a bit emotional, please forgive me. But I'm here. I wanted to be here to honour the women who put their trust in me to stand up for their rights. We all, women, men, non-binary, need to stop allowing male violence against women and girls to continue. We need to share our experiences and show that doing that is not a thing to be afraid of or ashamed of, and speaking out is a necessary part of illuminating the evil that goes on. This is why our amendment calls on Cabinet to put in place structures for women and girls to share their experiences so that we can all work together to make Merton a truly safe place for women and girls to prosper and thrive, achieving their full potential and contributing how they want to. So to the report, to be honest, I think the title is wrong for this. It centres on women and girls, but it should be about men, how to stop male violence. One of the queries we raised in this report, which previous councillors have actually spoken on, was about how to change male attitudes. And I was a bit disappointed to see that the only comment was about teaching relationship education in schools. Like, that's fine, but that's not going to solve the problem for generations. How can young men take it seriously when they're watching their elders harass, catcall, stalk, abuse, undermine and belittle women without any penalty? Why would they change their behaviour when rape goes unreported, and even when it is, it goes unprosecuted? Why should women and girls believe in a criminal justice system that allows this to happen? And what does it say to us when the most likely suspect for Sarah Everard's murder is a serving police officer? Who can we even trust? I believe there's a bigger social issue about being able to trust men, especially those in positions of power. So talking to boys about relationships is really good. I think we should definitely be doing it, but it doesn't solve our problems. I expect a lot of male councillors will be thinking about their mothers, their wives, their daughters. And whilst I know that sentiment is well-meaning, why on earth do so many men only care about women, care about these issues when they can imagine them happening to women they know? Why can men not respect women simply as people, regardless of their relationship to us? As I said earlier, I wanted to speak out and show my support for others to do so, especially those who are less likely than me to be heard. People who don't speak the language, minority women, trans women. And as I was writing the speech, I thought about all the times I've been spoken to inappropriately, touched inappropriately, and this is really uncomfortable for me to say, but raped. So when I have told men about the things that have happened to me, their response is often, "Oh, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't you fight?"
You have a minute remaining.
This will be familiar to many women, and let's name that for what it is. It's victim blaming. Less than 3% of rape cases end in prosecution, and that's only the ones that get reported. So what's the point? And if you want to fight back, you might die. So why would you do that? But it's not just about those big things. It's about the daily microaggressions that we face. It's about being catcalled and harassed on a daily basis, being patronised, belittled, undermined anytime you do anything which men see as a threat, such as being elected as a young female councillor and being told that I was only elected because I was pretty, or going to work and having to deal with men that only look at your chest. Or the men who say, "Oh, I don't hit women, I'd never do such a thing," but they do stand by and don't call out their friends. This is our chance to stand up rather than continue to stand by. So I formally propose this amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
This is being seconded by Councillor Bakari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. We now move to the debate. The following have indicated they wish to speak. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start by referring to In Control, a recent book by Professor Jane Monckton-Smith, which describes a timeline of male behaviour, which starts with what could be described as low-level abuse of women and ends in murder. It states that killers do not snap and lose control. Rather, abuse escalates over time and concludes in murder, but could be and can be stopped at any point earlier in the process. Both in domestic abuse and the much rarer assault by strangers, the process may begin with stalking, coercive control, emotional and financial abuse. It may move to physical and sexual abuse or rape and end in murder. So the work that we do as a council with partner agencies, including the police, to help women escape from and be safe from violence and abuse literally saves lives. And we should do all we can to improve these services. However, we men also have a personal responsibility to act to tackle male violence against women. Behaviour by men will often escalate to more and more serious and threatening behaviour as long as at each stage men get away with it, are even rewarded for it, and are not stopped. So let's start at the beginning. The man in the pub, gym, or workplace, or a family member. Men may tell sexist jokes or repeat jokes about rape and violence towards women. They may treat women around them with disrespect or disdain, talk over women, belittle them, or tell them to shut up. You can often see it in attitudes to the women they come across in their daily lives, work colleagues, female staff in bars and restaurants, other customers, or women simply going about their daily business. Do you know a man who repeatedly and loudly will comment on women's appearance, often complete strangers, judging them on whether they conform to his idea of what a woman should look like or what is attractive to him? And it's not harmlessly giving a compliment. It's rude and intrusive, yet too many men keep doing it. In situations like these, do we, other men, always call them out, tell them to stop, and tell them that the jokes, attitudes, and behaviours are unacceptable? Or in the pub or workplace, is it often easier to keep one's head down, not make a scene, not challenge the behaviours that go on in front of our eyes? We must do so every time we encounter it. If we don't, however much we think we are allies to or even protectors of women, silence equals complicity equals encouragement. As men on this issue, this is our most important task. It may literally save lives. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to begin by offering the Conservative Group's deepest condolences to the family and friends, the very tragic death of Sarah Everard. Madam Mayor, my colleagues, Councillors Moulton, Ormrod and Bembo will be making further value contributions to the debate later. May I thank the officers for preparing tonight's report, which we welcome. We also commend the work carried out by the Merton Violence Against Women and Girls Board. Madam Mayor, no one can condone violence against anyone. Everything must be done to stop it. As a report points out, not all victims of domestic abuse are women, although of course they are the majority. And we need to ensure that we continue to provide support to all victims. I want to pay tribute to all local organisations in the borough who help victims of domestic abuse. They do incredible work, and it is heartening that they do not refuse to help people purely because of the gender of the victim. We are fortunate in Merton that we have organisations like Unique Talents and others who work in our community to steer young people away from gangs and violence and towards a stable and happy future. That is why it is so disappointing that since 2006, crime has greatly risen across London. Robbery is up 86%, knife crime is up by 60%, sexual assault on the tube is up by 43%, and the murder rate is at an 11-year high. Madam Mayor, to the Lib Dem amendment, we need to be very careful with the generalisation of language used. Misogyny should not be used as a political weapon. Indeed, a signatory to this amendment has been caught out doing just that in the past. That said, we do agree with the practical suggestions it makes. This is an issue that must be dealt with. So we will vote for the amendment tonight. Thank you.
Councillor McGrath.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I want to talk about section 2.4 of this report, which is on creating a safe public environment and what the council can do to make our public spaces safer. I was very pleased to see all the things that we're doing already, and we need to make sure that they continue. And those of us who are on the planning committee must continue to bear in mind the need to make sure that new developments are designed to be as safe as possible. And that when we approve a development without implementing all of the recommendations of the police, we need to think through very clearly why we're doing that. And Madam Mayor, the focus of this motion is rightly on the behaviour of men. And I was very struck looking at the excellent work that the charity Solace do. They're a charity dedicated to supporting women and girls who face sexual violence. And they produce a thing called the Good Guys Guide, with the message, she doesn't know you're a good guy. It's about the fear that women have in everyday activities like walking down the street and what men can do to reduce that. It has 7 points covering things like not walking but closely behind women, crossing over the road when there's just you and a woman around. Very simple things, but ones which can make a real difference. And I can really recommend it. And I will send it after this meeting to all the male councillors. They also have a guide to this meeting on being for men on being a positive bystander. And that comes back to the point that Councillor Bailey made in her very moving and powerful speech about men not standing by when they see abusive behaviour and needing to take personal responsibility when they see something wrong. Madam Mayor, we've heard, and I'm sure we'll hear some more very good speeches today. But let's make sure we do 2 things. First, as we say in our amendment, let's listen to what women and girls are telling us about what they want, including in the area of public safety and planning. And let's make sure that we actually don't just think about this when there's a horrific murder, but it's something that we regularly look at to see whether we're doing all we can. Thank you very much.
Councillor Ormerod.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This subject indeed is one that's been discussed so widely and quite rightly so. As part of these wider discussions more recently, I've been asked by men and by women my personal viewpoint and asking me what they can do better in their own lives to actually make a difference and to actually try to actually bring the rates of what's happening come down. Everyone I've spoken to across all genders want to understand and learn. I've advised them exactly what we've just been talking through there, to be aware of simple aspects such as to cross the street rather than walk directly behind somebody, particularly when it's dark, and think about others around you, and discuss the issues at hand with their families and their children as well. We are fortunate to live in one of the safest boroughs in London, where Merton has the 6th lowest overall crime rate of the 32 London boroughs. But let's not forget that that puts Merton on par with the national average, and there is always more that can be done. The Conservative government has committed within their policies to place more police on the streets. And I personally had a great opportunity this week, along with my colleague, Councillor James Holmes, to meet around 20 police probationers in South Park Gardens for their first day out in public in their new uniform, doing weapons sweeping training. The subject of violence against women is such an important subject to discuss, and there will be so much to cover in a 3-minute speech, which brings me to a decision to focus on one particular area, which will be children. Many children are present when violence is taking place, whether that be in the home or not. These children are the next generation, are incredibly important. Children who witness violence are prone to mental health issues, paranoia, and behavioural problems. By their experience, they can see this behaviour as normal, and this is simply not acceptable in our society. They hear the wrong things, watch the wrong media, and we shouldn't just rely on schools to be the people to guide them for what is the difference between right and wrong, because they will one day be adults. Witnessing abuse carries the same risk of harm to children's mental health and learning as being abused directly. As a parent, I bought a book a few years ago, which was invaluable. Thinking of writing this speech drew me towards that particular book. It's called The Book You Wish Your Parents Have Read, and Your Children Will Be Glad That You Did. It helps parents on lots of things, such as understanding how our lives can affect our own parenting and learning from our mistakes. Because it's what we all need to do is educate ourselves, learn from what is happening in society, and is there anything we could do better? What is it? There isn't a silver bullet in terms of what to do. On a local level, cleaner streets, good street lighting, all we need to assess, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem, which is one of behaviour. What we all need to do is listen, learn, emphasise, assist, and in general be better people in today's society. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Irons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Bailey, for sharing your story with us. Not all men, but all women. Not all men commit acts of violence against women, but all women have taken the long route home because there are more people around, have carried keys between their knuckles for self-defence, or kept a phone conversation going during a solo cab journey. All women know what it is to live in a world that normalises male violence against us, where boys will be boys turns into, she shouldn't have been wearing that. We are taught before we even know who we are that male violence is inevitable and it is our responsibility to avoid it. That the world is inherently violent and we are simply living in it, existing in it, and surviving in it. We are taught that if we have the temerity to walk alone at night, the insolence to wear what we want, or the audacity to have too good a night out, we are only have ourselves to blame. Living in a world where violence against women and girls is accepted makes for very stark statistics. In the last decade, 1,425 women have been murdered by men. That's about one killing every 3 days. And although we live with a sense of constant vulnerability in our streets, more than 70% of women are killed in their own home. This council remains committed to tackling violence against women and girls. As the report outlines, we are continuing to provide support for victims of domestic violence with initiatives like our one-stop shop, which gives victims a safe and confidential space to report abuse. We continue to promote the Ask for Angela scheme and are working with our schools to support education about healthy relationships. It is in the spirit of collaboration and a desire to effect genuine change that we consider the 2 amendments put forward by our Liberal Democrat colleagues tonight. I have to be honest and say that the second amendment looks to me like a man's idea. It feels like a solution that can be applied to how men typically experience violence rather than one that adequately addresses the complexities at play when women
You have
are
a minute
victims.
remaining.
Restorative justice may work if you're confronting a stranger, but in the context of domestic violence, where the battle is to break the relationship with an abusive partner or a sexual assault where victims are often treated with suspicion, restorative justice could prove at best traumatic and at worst fatal. However, it is for Sarah Everard, Bieber Henry, Nicole Smallman and all the women who did not make it home that we vote for this amendment tonight. For them and for the women whose homes are not the sanctuary they should be, it is right that we acknowledge misogyny is systemic, that women must be heard, and that the experiences of women should inform what comes next. Thank you.
Councillor Gould.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Almost 1 in 3 women aged 16 to 59 will experience domestic abuse in her lifetime. 2 women a week in England and Wales are killed by a current or former partner. Domestic violence and abuse has become a major concern in recent months in light of COVID lockdowns. Over 3,000 incidents of domestic abuse in the last year in Merton, an increase of 8% on the previous year. I was therefore surprised to read that Merton's refuges accommodation for women escaping domestic violence has only 17 available beds. Since the pandemic, domestic abuse has become an epidemic and should be viewed as a public health crisis. Survivors say London's healthcare providers are missing opportunities to get life-saving support to victims of domestic abuse. This was one of the observations made in Merton's Domestic Homicide Review report on the murder of Mrs. A. Merton needs a whole health approach where professional curiosity is applied to the circumstances of women and girls. GPs and surgeries fail to report abuse and involve local services, including social services. Women are left without help and unprotected. When focusing on how men's behaviour needs to change, we welcome the rehabilitation programme for perpetrators of domestic violence and abuse, aiming to motivate and support perpetrators to modify their abusive behaviour. I read with interest about the voluntary programmes working with perpetrators of domestic abuse who have recognised the need to change their ways, but was disappointed to find none of these currently run in Merton. We do, however, welcome the police proposal to establish a multi-agency forum to focus on perpetrators of domestic violence to ensure agencies are sharing information and managing risk of offending. Also welcome is the new statutory relationship training in schools, in particular on consent. The domestic abuse bill passed through Parliament last week, but it was shocking to see that MPs, including Stephen Hammond MP, voting against an amendment for a national register for domestic abusers. Deeply disappointing was a decision to exclude migrant women from the protections offered under the new bill, affecting some of the most vulnerable women in society. Unbelievable also was the decision to vote down a requirement for all family court judges to have training on domestic abuse and domestic violence, failing women and children, leaving them in situations of harm. Now must be the time for Merton to change the narrative from "why doesn't she leave" to "why doesn't he stop?"
Councillor Moulton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I thank you for your excellent service and term of office. Firstly, I'd like to offer my sympathy and condolences to the family and friends of Sarah Everard. Her abduction and death from just down the road in Clapham has, as I know, shocked us all. Our response to any shocking event needs to be measured as we evaluate what needs to be done. And I commend this report and the details of the many activities and relevant organisations that our council and our partners are involved with. Madam Mayor, of course, more can be done, and the report also highlights the consultations and future actions proposed. Over my 19 years on the council and as a governor, I've been involved with many excellent initiatives in schools, seen firsthand many projects and delivered by charities and faith groups, and I visited the Women and Children's Refuge to witness the support provided there and the help offered to victims via the one-stop shop. We must ensure that everyone's aware of that valuable support available to all victims of violence and to those suffering, often in silence from bullying and abuse. We need to empower and give a confidence to young girls growing up and women living and working in our borough. The confidence to take part in diverse activities alongside boys and men, and to walk or use our public transport to go to school, to work and their activities. As a woman and a parent, I've long championed the right to work and to be treated fairly and remunerated on a level playing field, whether in diverse roles or as councillor, mayor, group leader, and on various boards, from the London Fire Authority to being a governor and volunteering. And I've learned that we all need to support and serve one another as a team, as team players, whether in schools, at the boardroom table, or in frontline work, or indeed in this chamber. I'm proud that Merton is one of the safest boroughs and has been consistently in the bottom quartile of London.
You have a minute remaining.
Crime rate. However, the fear of crime is sadly high, and Wandsworth often wrongly perceived as the safer borough. There's a call tonight for a change of behaviour, and this, everyone knows, is hard when we first learn our behaviours from parents. So parenting is one of the most important things to ensure that our children and adults have respect for and crucially for each other of any age, religion or sex. Madam Mayor, it's incumbent upon us all as councillors and as corporate parents to show leadership on this issue, starting with respect for each other. And it's not just men's behaviour that has to change. We can all call out poor behaviour, crucially report abuse and violence when witnessed, and don't just turn a blind eye. We all need to take responsibility to serve and respect one another, to treat people as you wish to be treated. Madam Mayor, our Queen and the late Duke of Edinburgh offer the best examples of how to serve and support, not just one another, but this borough and the nation. Thank you.
Time's up.
Councillor Lanning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, the Liberal Democrat group has raised an important issue tonight, the sentiment of which none of us could disagree with. Because, Madam Mayor, there is no excuse for violence, irrespective of who it is committed against. But the tragic murder of Sarah Everard reflects the fear that women live with each day. It is a sad truth, Madam Mayor, that violence and fear unite us. And while it is right that we stand up to this intentional and visible violence, I am afraid that on its own, this amendment cannot deliver the real change we want to see. Because, Madam Mayor, at its heart, the violence that is committed against women is committed simply because we are women. The entrenched inequalities and stereotypes around the roles of women and men in society mean that as women, alongside the brutal attacks of visible violence, we persistently experience unintentional violence with every bit as fatal consequences in many cases. The unequal relationship between men and women means that women are 20% more likely to die in car crashes, 50% more likely to be misdiagnosed after a heart attack, and 90% more likely to experience worse side effects from medication than men. And Madam Mayor, this is not because women are inherently more at risk of collisions or heart attacks, but because crash test dummies are modelled on men and clinical trials generally tend to recruit male participants. To paraphrase Matt Hancock at the launch of last month's Women's Health Strategy, women have and continue to live in a world that is mostly designed by men for men. And that's not good enough, Madam Mayor. In a country with a female head of state, a female Met Police Commissioner, and 2 former female prime ministers, surely we must not regress into thinking that our destiny should be shaped by giving the control back to men. Madam Mayor, we all have a role to play in tackling the structural inequality that breeds both visible and invisible violence against women. And of course, Madam Mayor, it is vital that we continue to work with agencies and partners to support women who encounter violence and to promote a safe space to share experiences of violence. But so too is it critical that as women, we have a seat at the table, we have a voice and we are heard. Because, Madam Mayor, it is women who should help shape the social norms that guard against hidden violence, and it is women who should determine what it is that makes us feel safe. Madam Mayor, to tackle intentional violence against women, yes, we need to see a change in some men's behaviour, but to see real progress, we need a collective effort, inclusive of all men and all women, that challenges not only the visible, but also the invisible patterns of violence that cut into all corners of our society. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to thank officers for a report that not only details all Merton is currently doing, but challenges us to do more. The police clearly have an important role to play in tackling violence against women and girls. However, as our Borough Commander, Chief Superintendent Liz Chappell recently made clear at OSC, confidence has been shaken in the wake of Sarah Everard's cruel murder. As the Chief Superintendent noted, both the identity of the leading suspect and what Liz described as the terrible optics at the end of the Clapham Common Vigil have placed the Met in, using her words again, a very difficult position in which trust has been undermined. I'd consequently like to thank the Borough Commander for both her honesty in facing up to the problem and the determination with which she pledged to rebuild trust. I wonder in passing how many male Borough Commanders would have responded in such a way. Crucial to building trust, as the report makes clear, is the role of community policing, which the Chief Superintendent has recently made a priority across the South West London BCU. Policing by consent rests on the foundations of community policing, and that requires bobbies on the beat and local police stations. Now is not the time to engage in partisan arguments over police numbers and police stations, however, nor for that matter crime statistics. I will therefore limit myself to reminding whosoever wins the mayoralty on 6th of May that in my ward, Wimbledon Police Station is critical to community policing as a consequence in combating violence against women and building trust. In response to the powerful and moving speech of colleagues, I would like to end by making a plea that the Council utilise restorative justice processes to address violence against women and girls. RJ allows victims of crime, where appropriate, to meet the perpetrators, to hear and address such harrowing testimonies. And can I agree totally with Councillor Irons? It is not always appropriate. It's particularly inappropriate in many domestic violence situations where there is a relationship that continues to be hostile. I have
a minute remaining.
I have worked with a charity which has successfully achieved a RJ in a domestic violence situation, but it rarely does work. But there are other situations where it can work and should work, primarily to help in the victim's rehabilitation, but also to make the perpetrator face up to what they did. As someone who, with my family, went through this process and in particular saw the beneficial effect it had on my eldest daughter, I would urge Councillor Akagina to utilise the funds available within MOPAC to make RJ a priority where appropriate in Merton's fight against violence against women and girls. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Bembo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have spread the Luton wish to discuss the local response to violence against women and girls, focusing on understanding how men's behavior needs to change. However, we must ensure that we take this opportunity to recognize that violence can also occur against men and those from vulnerable groups. I have my own experience of this. For 3.5 years, I was in an abusive relationship, and I can understand why there are many who do not speak up. However, I feel it is right to share my own experiences so that we can ensure we do regard to all those in society who suffer abuse. I was threatened with extreme physical violence and subject to mental abuse. I witnessed my wife self-harm by slitting her wrist. I tried to make the marriage work, but after 3.5 years, I had to leave. The police said I had a lucky escape. Sadly, there are many in our society who do not. This is why I feel I have a duty to speak up. This is not something I would shout about. I am lucky that I managed to blank out many bad memories, all thanks to my loving mother and brothers with their families, close friends, the local police, and of course the vicar who paid for me. Madam Mayor, please note I am not looking for pity. Still, the sad reality is that it could happen to anyone, a female or a male. Many people out there are far less fortunate involved with circumstances, murder, rape, domestic abuse, domestic violence. We hear in the news unbearable sadness, and it's unimaginable when a crime happens in your neighborhood. COVID has not helped the situation. We see increased domestic violence and rising crime across London. The police must be recognized for what they do to protect our boroughs, and we have a fantastic safer merchant team within our council, ensuring our safety across merchant. I hope we can focus on the local response to violence against all gender, but focusing on understanding how one behaviour needs to change. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Fairclough.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Tonight, if I'm honest, hasn't been an easy debate to listen to. It's said that sunlight is to be the best of disinfectants and electric light the most efficient policeman, but that doesn't stop it hurting when you're blinded by that light. But we do need to listen and reflect, even when it's painful. I doubt there's anyone here who wasn't moved by Councillor Bailey's words, but I know that she doesn't need my concern, although it's definitely there. She needs me to listen and to act. Councillor Lanning spoke about structural inequalities. Councillor Irons spoke about a society where all women learn that violence against them is accepted. I know that Councillor Bukhari will talk about the fear she has as having been a woman candidate and the impact this has had on her health and her mental health. None of them need my quiet concern. They need me to listen and they need me to act. Councillor McGrath highlights the importance of creating safe public environments, both by planners and on a micro level, and he's right. Standing by, looking concerned is not enough. He suggests a few ways that can take action. Councillor Ormerod touched on children who witness domestic violence, and I'm shocked by the statistics around domestic violence that both Councillor Lanning and Councillor Gould have mentioned. Councillor Gould talks about professionals exercising curiosity to intervene where it's needed. Well, that's the action we all need to take. Councillor Kohler has touched on one mechanism for change, or at least part of a mechanism for change. What restorative justice does is brings a perpetrator to share their experience with a victim, to share the experience of the victim, and that therefore that understanding might follow and behaviour might change. And what I learned from that is it's the shared experiences, such as the experiences that have been shared tonight, that drive action. Now, in all my roles as an employer, a partner, a father, a friend, and ultimately a concerned citizen,
Have a minute remaining.
and as a councillor, I need to seek out an understanding of the lived experience of women. I need to learn and I need to decide how to act. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Stringer.
Madam Mayor, the reason for us all being here is tragic. Any murder is a tragedy, and the murder of a young woman doing nothing more than walking home feels particularly tragic. And we all send our heartfelt sympathies to Sarah Everard's family and friends. The incident has hit a nerve because it feeds into the deep-seated fears that many women and girls have about their safety, as many others tonight have already eloquently and passionately talked about. I've had some reactionary individuals, thankfully not here tonight, I've been really impressed by the contributions tonight, who claim that it's silly for women to worry about being attacked by a stranger on the street because they are statistically much more likely to be harmed by a partner in their own home. Madam Mayor, I don't know about you, but that does not provide much comfort. While our local data shows that Merton rates of domestic violence are relatively low compared with other London boroughs, domestic violence is a significant issue and accounts for a fifth of all murders of adults. Despite this, it's an issue still overlooked by the public. As an indication of this, take the charitable giving to the issue. Madam Mayor, I'm going to talk about donkeys. There is one individual donkey sanctuary, a registered charity, which last year received £38 million in donations. Meanwhile, the three largest domestic violence charities received combined donations of 7.3 million. The donkeys, I'm sure, are lovely, and I'm not arguing they don't deserve to be looked after, generate 5 times as much charitable donations as women at risk of violence. Madam Mayor, we know that violence and murder is horrendous, but thankfully many women will not experience them. but we know that its cause is a misogyny, a hatred of women that is rampant in our society, and that is what we need to address. This means stamping out everything from misogynist verbal insults to sexual and physical violence perpetrated by men against women. But more deeply than this, as others have said as well, we have to address structural inequalities. Madam Mayor, men who behave inappropriately towards women as adults were once young boys, and girls from an early age experience prejudice about how society views them.
You have a minute remaining.
I was as shocked as many of you were to read testimony on the website Everyone's Invited of thousands of girls and young women from all across the country about their current and historic experiences of abuse at the hands of schoolboys. Girls should not feel unsafe at school while travelling to or from school or with friends outside school. Further than that, girls should not experience demeaning or insulting comments. Madam Mayor, we work so hard to keep children safe in Merton, and I can assure the council that in Merton we listen to young people. Our Merton schools are listening to the voices of the girls who've spoken up in the wake of Sarah Everard's death. Schools, both state and independent, are working closely with us and other experts and with pupils and families to address their concerns. And our Safeguarding Partnership Executive has had additional extraordinary meetings to deal with this. But as Councillor Ormerod has said, this is not something that can be solved by schools or by safeguarding departments. This is about changing society. I'm so sorry about the death of Sarah Everard, but at least this tragedy has acted as a catalyst for some frank and honest conversations. We can only hope it can lead to real change.
Councillor Bakari, do you wish to speak now?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for your contribution. It's been incredibly moving and difficult to listen to. What I have been incredibly proud of is how we've united across the political divides here to speak about women. Women, that's what we are doing today, and I'm so glad that so many of you have understood the importance of today, and I'm very, very grateful for your time. Sarah Everard's death has raised so many issues for women's safety and violence towards women. It highlighted the inadequate systems that just make things worse. It gave women and girls a jolt and reminded us how unsafe we feel and how we need society and men's behaviour and attitudes to change. Madam Mayor, tonight is emotional, particularly when we were listening to Eloise, who I am so proud of. She is utterly amazing and wonderful to be speaking tonight about something that is incredibly difficult. So I'm so grateful to her for doing that, because it's a debate that we need to have, but this is the only the start. We ask that this conversation and the work doesn't end here. Our amendment makes it clear that we do need to do more, that our lived experiences matter, and that we need to be heard. I note that in the report there is a section on mental health, and I'm very grateful for that because it is important. It references amazing trailblazers in schools and worthy initiatives. However, there is something missing, and that is specifically women's mental health as a result of domestic violence, abuse and harassment. Many of us here have talked about our experiences. Many women who stand for office and get elected know only too well how sometimes fear can stop us even doing our job or even leaving the house. And fear is warranted because we all remember the devastating murder of Jo Cox, a woman who was just doing her job and serving the community and was killed. The judge said an aggravated feature was the weeks of planning that the man convicted of the murder spent researching Jo, knowing Jo was the mother of young children. Now, during the general election, I was a candidate. My home address, my children's school, my husband's workplace were all shared on social media. I had threats of, you better watch your back, photos of dead birds and other things that were quite disturbing, and aggressive demands on my DMs on Twitter. The police were involved and they did put me on the priority list, but I feared for my children. So I sent them to my mum, and she did all the school drop-offs and pickups during the election, and I didn't see much of them until the end of the campaign. I had to come in to make a speech in the council chamber one night, and I was so scared that I began to hyperventilate. My husband had to come in. It was the first
Have a minute remaining.
And he sat in the back, and I was so scared that somebody was going to come and approach me, one of the abusers. So this kind of mental trauma happens to most women at some point in politics, and yet we don't have anywhere to address it. We're just told to deal with it, comes with the territory, it's what you expect. But where is the support? I don't mean from friends or colleagues, but from the law, the professionals, the system. And it takes strength to talk about these issues. So I want to thank you all for contributing. Let's all make sure that we're supporting each other and listening. Let's look out for each other. Let's also make sure that we do something tonight that makes real change. Our amendment demands courage. Enough is enough. Women and girls should not be scared to live their lives as they want anymore. Please accept our amendment, and thank you.
There are no further speakers. Councillor Akingina, do you wish to use your right of reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you all very much. It's been a very moving evening. Eloise, thank you very much. It must have been hard for you to say what you had to say. And I'm glad we're all working together. And I think we'll all be voting for the amendments. There's a few bits that we can work out afterwards, but that's really all I want to say. Thank you.
I now call for a vote on the amendment. Members, please select on your screens either for, against, or not voting and press submit. Remember to press submit. Councillor Stanford, can I have your vote, please?
For.
Thank you. For, 58, against, 0, not voting, 1. I now call for a vote on the substantive report as amended. Members, please select on your screens either for, against, or not voting, and then submit. Councillor Stanford, can I have your vote, please?
For.
For, 58, against, 0, not voting, 1. The motion as amended is carried. With no further business, I declare this extraordinary meeting of the Council closed.